Hey everyone, it's Coach Matt over here at Primal Athlete Training Center, www.primalatc.com. Well, believe it or not, we're getting down to the very end of our Javelin video series that we've been doing here for the past 3 weeks or so. We're going to kind of start to wrap things up today, and our final video on the Javelin is going to be tomorrow. Now, in doing this video, what I've realized is that we've really touched on a lot of the beginner basic stuff. And there's a reason for that. You really need to master the big stuff. You need to master the basics first. And a lot of times in mastering the basics and in mastering the big things, all those little things, all those little questions will get corrected at the same time. Now, keeping that in mind, if there is something that you have a specific question on, if there's something that we have not gone over to this point that you want to learn more about, ask those questions. Go on to Facebook. All right, if you search Primal Athlete Training Center on Facebook, it'll pop right up. You'll see our logo right on the side. It's the same logo that we have here on these videos and also on the primalatc.com website. So just click like. You can post your questions right there on the Facebook wall. I'll get the questions emailed right to me, right on my phone, and we'll take care of it from there. Now, today's video, what we're going to talk about is the first approach run. Yesterday we went into crossovers as far as actually working on turning our body sideways to where we're going to be throwing and crossing over and accelerating as we do those crossover steps. Now, I don't put a set amount of steps that everybody has to do. So you're never going to hear me say, okay, you have to do 5 steps, you have to do 4 crossovers, or you have to do 4 steps and 3 crossovers. I like to keep it where my athletes are pretty loose about it. They each have their own amount of steps that they like to do, but I'm not going to pigeonhole them and put them into a category and say you can only do this many steps. If someone feels better with a longer approach, I let them do it. If someone feels better with a shorter approach, I let them do it, of course making sure that they're doing it correctly. Now, what we mean while we say doing it correctly is you want to avoid a few things. Now, the initial approach run, basically it's just running forward with the Javelin and accelerating smoothly up until you get to your crossovers. Once you get in the crossovers, you continue to accelerate smoothly all the way till you reach your top speed, finally getting off the ground, landing, planting, throwing that Javelin as far as you possibly can. Okay? So when we talk about the approach run, it's pretty basic. You're basically sprinting with a stick. You're starting to slowly accelerate as you go down the runway, and then you're going to enter into your crossovers. Okay. Now, keeping that in mind, there are a few things that you have to watch out for. The first thing you have to watch out for is sometimes when an athlete is counting the amount of steps in their head. They're counting out, say they're going to do 4 left steps before a crossover. They're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 into a crossover. What you want to avoid is when the athlete counts, what you'll notice is that they get real heavy on one leg. They start to do kind of like a Quasimodo step, a nice limp when they start to run because they count. So what it'll look like is they'll start with that left and they'll go 1, 2, 3. They'll start to count so hard that they'll actually be going way too heavy on one side. That causes a lot of bouncing, turbulence, things that you want to avoid when throwing the Javelin. Okay? The other thing that you want to avoid is excessive bouncing of the Javelin. This is something I see a lot when the athlete will start to run and they'll literally start bouncing the Javelin up and down on their shoulder. Keep in mind, just like an airplane taking off the ground, the Javelin needs to be nice and smooth. So the smoother you can keep that Javelin throughout the entire movement, the further it's going to go, the more force you're going to be able to apply in the right direction. Also, when it comes time to pull back that Javelin, which we're going to talk about tomorrow, and transition from that straight ahead run into a crossover, you don't want that to be bouncing a lot because then when you pull it back, who knows where it's going to be. It might be way up high, it might be way down low. You want to keep it right at the same level the whole time. Okay? Don't make it too hard on yourself. Keep things simple, keep things basic. That's like the guys in the back of the discus circle that just do this 30 or 40 times before they throw. By the time they get ready to throw, their feet are in all different areas. The discus might be up nice and tall, it might be low by their hip, they might only be coming back part of the way instead of all the way. Keep it simple, keep it efficient. Run up that runway, get the javelin nice and steady, nice and balanced, so you can go and pull back into a great throw. Okay? Now, just like yesterday, how do we practice this? What do we do to reinforce this, to make sure that there's good speed, there's a good buildup of speed, there's a good acceleration, and how do we make sure that we're not going too heavy on one side when we count? Well, you have to get on the track and you have to practice. Sorry to be the one to tell you, but that's what you have to do. Just like I said yesterday, you've got to get out there, you've got to get on the track, you've got to practice running. Now, we're not talking about running 1 lap or 2 laps or 3 laps. We're talking about short sprints. Keep it anywhere from 10 to 12 steps. Make sure that every time they step, they're getting a little bit faster each time. Now, you want to avoid the counting. So all you should do as a coach, or all you should do as an athlete, is mark off a certain distance. 30 meters, 30 yards, whatever it is, whatever kind of field you're on, and just have them slowly run and accelerate each time. That's going to get that kind of heavy foot when they're counting in their head completely out of their mind, and teach them how to properly accelerate, how to get those feet moving correctly, and how to hit those different speeds, hit those different gears every time they run. Guys, that's all I have for you today. Tomorrow we're going to wrap things up. We're going to talk about transitioning from that straight ahead run, that straight approach run, into the crossovers, and we're also going to talk about pulling back that javelin. We touched on it a few weeks ago when we talked about the difference between pulling it back and walking in front of it. Now we're going to apply it to the actual approach run. Now we're going to apply it to the full throw and actually have you guys out there, have you guys doing a full proper javelin throw, and having you guys PR like crazy for the rest of the season. Guys, it's Coach Matt. Thanks so much for checking us out. Make sure you let your friends, your teammates, and your coaches know about primalatc.com.